Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast, presented by RacerX, the podcast for moto industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and riders. If you want to grow your brand and business in today's digital-first world, you have to know how to turn a stranger into a fan, turn a like into a customer. You have to know how to turn attention into dollars. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you in the know on real marketing tactics that work in the moto world so that you grow your business and help grow the sport. Get ready to learn from the very same marketing experts trusted by RacerX, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, GNCC, and NBC Sports. They'll help you navigate the world of digital marketing for your moto brand. This is the Moto Marketing Podcast. Presented by RacerX.
All right, as promised, we got a great guest for you today. We have Mike Dettmers from Stacyc. Super excited to have Stacyc on and Mike to talk about what the brand has done to go from concept to a real an idea taken to a real thing to where now it's blowing up. I mean, if you're at the GNCC races, you see it everywhere. If you're at the Supercross races, they've got their own little thing going on there. It is something that has taken off rapidly, and obviously they had an exciting acquisition in 2019. So, Mike, I'm excited to have you on the show and to talk about Stacyc and everything you guys have done. So, welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast.
Yeah, Luke, excited to be on, brother. No, it's been a fun journey. I mean, I think to kind of give everybody a little history on where this thing started. I think that's a big part of why it's grown the way it has. You know, if you take a look back to, Ryan Ragland getting this thing kind of up and going, it was truly about a dad that was in the moto industry, grew up in it, started racing motorcycles as a teenager and was chasing his dream to become a pro motocross racer, moved from Montana down to SoCal to really live the dream and try to be a part of this whole, craziness of motorcycle racing. And he was doing pretty well, made his way to some night shows, and ended up getting hurt a few times and realizing, look, I'm not fast enough to be, the guy. So he went back to school, decided he was going to be an engineer. Meanwhile, meets the guys at KTM, starts working on the race team, does some stuff there with the guys, ends up becoming an R&D engineer for KTM at the race team development kind of side of things. And as his career progressed, throughout KTM for 8 or 9 years, he had started to have kids, right? And in that time frame, he's kind of, going through the same thing that all the other dads out there go through with, hey, how do I get my little riding buddy up and going? Like, I want him to love motorcycles just like I do, right? I mean, we all have that same goal. If you've got kids, you've felt it, right? So you started with the first son, kind of going, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do it early. He was a big kid, he got him on the PW50 and he's like, hey, we're going to learn to ride. And he did the same thing that everybody else was doing back then, right? You go out into the field, you're going, look, you're not getting training wheels because we're, a racing family. We're not doing the quad thing. We're doing dirt bikes. And, so it's running next to your kid, your hair's falling out, kid's scared, you're scared, mom's mad, so you just have this situation that just starts out kind of sketchy, right? And he taught the first boy to, ride that way. And, he never really fell in love with riding. So he's going, man, what happened? I had a son. I thought it was going to be the perfect time for, me to create that little riding buddy. And what do you know? William ends up becoming a baseball player, right? He's like, well, I messed that one up, right? So, a couple years later, he has his next son, Robbie, and you could see in Robbie's eyes super early that he wanted to ride, right? The PW is in the garage. He's 2.5 years old. He's watching Supercross. He's on his Strider in front of the TV. The gate drops and he's freaking out. And he's like, dude, I know this is my guy, right? Like, he's going to be my little riding buddy. Right. And, what ends up happening there is like, I don't want to screw this one up again. So I got to figure out something else, right? So I got to see what else is in the market. What can I put him on sooner than I could put him on a 50 so that he doesn't become afraid of it? He's living in a housing tract at that point. So he's going, I don't have access to a bunch of land. I need to be, I need something that's quiet. I need it to be lightweight. I need mom to be able to deal with it because I'm at work all the time and I want him to be a rider, right? So he's looking around for what's out there and he's like, there's nothing really out there right now. He tried, a couple of the other electric bikes and the problem was they were still heavy. They were still pretty high off the ground. He still felt like, he had to really gear up Robbie to ride and make sure that he was wearing boots and kind of the whole nine, right? And that's not going to happen when, it's in front of the housing tract house with mom, right? So he's kind of going, man, like, I got to build something. Being an engineer, being involved in the industry, he had actually left at that point. He was actually doing medical device engineering by the time this was all coming around. But at the time he's going, how do I get him going? There's not a product out there that is available for him to get going. So I'm just going to build something. Like, I can do this, right? I'm an engineer at heart. I can, I've got the ability to, grab this, machine and create a prototype and get out there and start, getting him riding. And so it all started as like just a dad wanting to share his love for riding with his kid, right? So that, like, when you go back to, you ask how the brand's been able to, go from not really being there to, blowing up pretty quickly, at least a little bit. Like, we still feel like we have a long way to go, but it just comes back to that authentic story with, it truly was just a necessity, something that was needed, for a dad to be able to teach his kiddo. And that story kind of rings through with everybody, right? Whether you're, a dealership, another brand, so everybody's kind of looked to Stacyc like, wow, you really can get kids on bikes sooner, right? So that's where, we've had just that ability to go from, just getting started, really authentic and core story, and making our way into the motorcycle industry by providing a need, right? Like, we're here to help create the next generation of motorcycle riders. We can do it with kids that are younger. And that's, I think, a big part of why we've been able to move so quickly.
So take me from, it went from the idea to where he developed the product, started very small and niche. And I think when you and I had met, it was 2, maybe 3 years ago now at one of the AIM expos. And it was the first time that I had seen the Stacyc, and you had your setup was cool. It wasn't just the product. You had a little course, and really just, obviously your product is something that it's just seeing it isn't enough. It's, you've got to experience it, or the kid has to experience it. So talk to me about what really got this madness jump started from the standpoint of, we've got the product. Now what's our next move from a marketing and branding or an activation standpoint? Was it immediately going to events like AIM Expo and Amateur Nationals, or what were the first 1 or 2 moves that you guys made?
Yeah, I think that the big move started with kind of creating the brand, right? The product was there, and the product served a need, and there was definitely that, want for the product. And then it was like, hey, what do we do to make sure that we get, parents engaged and excited about it, dads that are into moto excited about it. So a big part of what Stacyc is we try to make everything as adult cool as possible, right? You don't see pigs and frogs and mohawks, and, the brand is very much, moto. It's very much adult cool. And we've been able to make sure that stays on point all the way through kind of our, growth here. So, from there, it's like, okay, we've got a moto cool brand. We're adult cool. Everything looks the part. We feel like we've got a really good, kind of core to move from. And then it was, we want to make sure that we are engaging, and activating these kids and getting them onto a bike and having that really good first experience. So it didn't matter. You mentioned AIM. It didn't matter whether we were going to, a small amateur motocross, event, or, the AIM Expo where there's actually not a lot of kids. We were always going to make sure that we set up as a brand that was able to activate. And the thought process there is, if we go to the AIM Expo, or we go to these places that you don't normally set up a big, course and activation, you're providing that idea to your dealer, right? And to the network, so that they go, hey, look, that's actually not that hard. There's some stuff there that they brand and that I can buy as a dealer, and I can set one of these things up in my dealership too. So really trying to make sure that we were always able to get a kid on a bike, and anywhere we activated was important. And then, always making sure that what we did was a little larger than life for the kids, right? Like, not a lot of brands are going to go through and put branded stanchions and tough blocks and all this stuff out at all these events, but we felt like, for this to be what it truly is, like, get the kids excited, like, it needs to look and be bigger than life for them. So that's been a big part of, our goal, making sure that it's all larger than life. Like, one of our ththings is dream big, ride Stacyc, right? And, for the kids, it's something that's happened that's probably one of the bigger things that's happened for them in their lives at 3 or 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, it's just what you guys have built has quickly become more than just a product. It's I guess lifestyle brand. It could almost fit into that, to where, again, I'm at a lot of the GNCC races, and something that I see a lot are, the moms going around on e-bikes or bicycles to kind of cheer on dad, and any of them that have parents, several I'm sorry, any of them that have kids, several of them are followed and trailed by, kid number 1 and kid number 2 on their Stacyc. And the GNCC has the Stacyc race Saturday evening after the e-bike race. And it's just something that is becoming extremely popular around there. And from what I've seen, it's been very much event activation based. What are some other things you guys have done to get the word out and get the excitement out? Or has it strictly been, man, kids have to see it, touch it, feel it for themselves and experience the ride, and then they're hooked? Or has it been digital?
No, there's a big social proof aspect to it. Like if you go on our social, you see a lot of user generated content, right? Like we feel like, not only does it create the social proof of, hey, there's truly people using these things and they're excited about it and their kids are progressing. At the same time, the content's fun, exciting, engaging, and it gives, the user the ability to be a part of what we do, right? So I think that, that UGC, user-generated content, piece of our digital marketing is working really well, and it's fun, and people love kids and they're cute, so it goes even better that way, right? So, that's been a big part of, getting the word out has been through social, but not just, social ads and branded content only, but utilizing, the consumers out there, the riders out there that are, posting stuff and hashtagging Ride Stacyc and are excited to be a part of our brand, right? Because they truly are, they are the brand.
Exactly. Talk to me about, as much as you're able to talk about, at least, obviously it was, I believe, 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Some exciting news came out that you guys were becoming part of the Harley Davidson family. And I'm sure some folks were not connecting the dots, how that quite made sense, but I saw it as, obviously, Harley sees an opportunity in this to get kids on bikes and get them riding at an early age. And just, I thought that was such an exciting time for our sport with this new product that's clearly going to help grow the next rider base. And then Harley jumps in on it. So talk to me about that. Did that come out of nowhere? Was it something that had kind of been in the works? And how has it changed the game since becoming part of the Harley brand?
Yeah, I mean, so early on, right, 2018, we actually had quite a few, guys in the building, right, kind of asking us what we were up to and how they could help, because, as a brand that, is brand agnostic, Stacyc, they're black, they're not red, green, yellow, orange, blue, right? So, we can be brought along a lot of cool places because we're the fun little brother that gets kids on bikes, right? So that aspect was kind of happening. And then as we were growing, we ended up in a few Harley Davidson dealers. There was Harley Davidson dealers that were excited about our message, which was creating the next generation of riders. And they're going, look, like, we need to be a part of this too. Like, the Harley message at that time had just been launched, and it was build new riders, right? So, in 2017, the CEO of Harley at the time, Matt Levittich, did a big keynote at the opening ceremonies at AIM and basically said, hey, look, everybody's got great product. Doesn't matter whether it's Harley or Indian or Yamaha, Honda. We've all got amazing product, but we all need to work together to build new riders. Like, that's what's going to push the industry forward. And at the same time, we were in a little 10x10 booth in the corner going, hey, we're trying to create the next generation of riders, guys. And that was 2017, and we had kind of coined that, tagline, or our mission is to create the next generation of riders. And with that, it was them seeing maybe that back in 2017, and then kind of watching us. They weren't physically talking to us at that point, but we made it into 30 or so Harley stores, right? And then we got a phone call from Harley that said, hey, we want to talk to you guys about what you're doing. It's awesome. You guys are in, some of our stores, and the dealer owners are super happy about it. It seems to be going well. How can we help you guys? Because it wasn't initially hey, we want to acquire you guys. It was hey, is there opportunity to do a licensing deal? We'd love to, put Harley Davidson, on these bikes that are in our stores and help push your message forward, but do it with the Harley badge and shield on it. We're like, hey, cool. Yeah, let's talk about that. Right. And as they got to know us a little bit more and saw our brand plan and where we were going from a create the next generation riders perspective, they're going, look, we got to help you guys out a lot more than, just licensing the product. How do we do that? And throughout, a couple months of conversations, it became it'd be really awesome to acquire you guys. Are you interested? And it was for us, Ryan and I and the team kind of going, look, like, for us to make a really big impact on the industry, we've got to make sure that we're here first and foremost, right? And at the time, it was a couple of us. It was a bootstrap, project. There wasn't a bunch of funding behind us. It was, privately held, and we were just trying to figure out how to get enough product to supply demand, right? So we were going in and out of stock a bunch. We'd get a load of inventory in, it would be pre-sold, and we'd have to wait for the next, batch of inventory. So we were watching, kind of inventory just becoming, what was holding us back, and looking at the opportunity with Harley. It was like, hey, you can build the business first,
right,
and everything can come after, versus, when you're trying to run it on your own and bootstrap it, you're doing it all at the same time, and you're stressing about cash flow, and you're having to make decisions that, aren't always the best for the brand. Where with now, a Harley acquisition and the backing that we have from them, you were able to say, yeah, we're going to be here for 20 years. It's 30, 50 years, right? It's going to be a brand that's going to be able to support the industry and be that initial funnel and pipeline for feeding the industry new riders, right? So that's where Harley really got behind us, is like, their play, it's 15, 16 years out, right, before they can sell their first, Harley to one of these kids. But they're looking at it like, if we don't do something now, that time frame is going to be, we'll be in a worse spot then than we are today. So it's really about filling their pipeline, but at the same time, they understand that every person, or most people that get on a Harley, have got on a dirt bike at some point. So they're going, look, start them on a Stacyc, get them on a P-Dub or a CRF, step them all the way through their, process of becoming an enthusiast and a rider on a dirt bike. When they're old enough to buy a street bike, at least they've been on two wheels and are excited about motorcycles. And now we've got a shot at talking to them, versus, all these kids that don't get a chance to ride, or haven't gotten a chance to ride because of, various reasons, right? Whether it's space or time or the amount of money it costs to get into your first motorcycle, right? With the Stacyc, it's a lot less expensive to start. So
yeah, it's again, it was an exciting move. It's cool to see them planning for the future that far in advance, and obviously it gives you guys more opportunity, more power to do even cooler things. So hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and finish our conversation with Mike and see what does Stacyc have planned moving forward in 2020, 2021, and beyond. So we'll be right back. Hey, I want to tell you about our friends at MXTech. They manufacture professional aftermarket suspension for riders who want excellent comfort and control. Their quality engineering is based on a lifetime of specializing in dirt bike suspension, and they've developed the Lucky Fork, which features dual springs, dual cartridges, huck valves, and is ultra lightweight. MXTech utilizes the latest technology and coatings to deliver maximum performance while remaining the lightest shock available. Head over to mx-tech.com for more information. Again, that's mx-tech.com for more information. And tell them Luke from the Moto Marketing Podcast sent you. All right, guys, welcome back to the Moto Marketing Podcast. Again, we have Mike Dettmers with Stacyc on the show today, talking about just the growth of this brand and how exciting it's been. And I'd mentioned, at the GNCC races Saturday nights, they have the Stacyc race, and it's exciting because there's almost more fans in one small space for that than there is for the ATVs and for the motorcycles. And it's just so cool to see the excitement of the kids. And you can see the other kids that haven't had a chance to ride one or see one. You can just see them like chomping at the bit to get on it. So it's exciting. But you guys have done some other things as well this year. Something that was new was your involvement with Supercross and some of the industry folks that are at the race that have kids. Jason Wygant is a great example. His kid rides a Stacyc, and he was able to compete in that on the Supercross stadium floor. Just a really cool experience. And from what I've heard, it's a small team, right? You guys are running it yourself. It's not like the KTM Junior Challenge where they've got their own staff. You guys are very small, very nimble, and you're doing this all on your own. Talk to me a little bit about that partnership with Supercross, and what have you guys seen come from that on such a big stage?
Yeah, I mean, so first and foremost, like, why Supercross, right? And you go back to the roots of the brand and where we came from, and our involvement in the motorcycle, world, right? And the motocross specifically. So it's like, for us, Supercross felt natural, right? For the time period, in the year, it's the biggest thing happening in motorcycles, right? From January through May. So, for us, it was on brand, straight into what we would normally, put ourselves into. And then, getting in front of a bigger audience at a time of year when typically you wouldn't, unless you were going to go to Supercross, right? So, the activation is awesome. We've got actually a full dirt track in the pits at about 12 rounds. That activation's putting a few hundred kids on bikes throughout the day. So it's, definitely putting butts on seats, giving kids the ability to, ride a bike maybe for the first time, ride a throttle probably for the first time, and do that at like one of the most iconic places to go, ride your motorcycle, right? Like you're going to go watch your heroes and you're going to go get your autograph, and you're also going to get to ride a Stacyc at the same time. So we felt like all of that together, created a pretty captivating little space for us. And then we, kind of said, hey, how do we go do something that's larger than life for some of our, kids that are already on Stacycs? And that's where that whole shot challenge came from. And, a couple of rounds where they were able to, start on the start gate and run out to the whole shot line and back in front of the whole stadium. And, I've got a 3.5-year-old now. And when I first started Stacyc, she was too young to ride. She's been riding for a little over a year now. So she started pretty early, but I've been going and doing all these things and creating these experiences for these families. And it's funny because the Supercross at 8.2 with the whole shot challenge was the first time that I was able to experience one of our experiences firsthand. Okay. And to tell you how I felt in the tunnel with my daughter that was going to go race, in front of the whole crowd, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, I do this all the time, but I don't feel these same emotions when I'm doing it for others. So as a parent, watching that experience with the kid, it's pretty amazing. I'm standing there and look at my watch because I'm like, man, my chest kind of hurts. What's going on? And look at my heart rate and it's like 150 in the tunnel, just like standing still, right? So the excitement's there. The parents, you're watching Ryan Villapoto and Carey Hart and all those guys, Christian Craig, they were all part of that first A2 race. And, they were as excited for their kids as they were for themselves. We came back through the tunnel after Ryan's little guy, won the 12-inch class, and Reed's coming by and he's like, Ryan, did we win? He's like, yeah, dude. And, the excitement level was just insane. So going back to how do we just continue to make things larger than life for the kid with the Stacyc and, bring the parents and engage them as well. We did a pretty fun race last year, kind of the first official Stacyc only event. And that was at Fox Raceway or Fox headquarters, where we actually did what we call the Super Grom Challenge, but had 200 kids come out and race their Stacycs for the day. And, 800 or 900 people showed up, and it was a pretty fun little deal, but the kids got to go do their first, race at 3 and 4 years old, where, normally they're waiting until they're 5 or 6. Right.
So I'm curious, as far as, are there any special requests from Harley to where obviously you guys are at a lot of these off-road events that are promoting getting a kid on a dirt bike, which that's the next natural step, is from a Stacyc to a, to a dirt bike. But does Harley request, or do you guys have any unique events and experiences at something more along the lines of, I don't know, Bike Week? Not that there's a lot of kids there, but some type of an event that is more in the Harley demographic, or do they pretty much just let you guys go rock and roll in the off-road and they know that it makes that natural progression over to, on the road?
Yeah. So to kind of clear, I guess, the Harley Stacyc, platform up. So there actually is a Harley Davidson branded version of our bikes, right? And that's what they sell inside those Harley stores. And we actually do go and activate at Harley events, right? Or events that are more, going to be in line with what a Harley, customer would go to, right? So from a flat track perspective, we were actually at X Games last year. So they had the Hooligan X Games race, and there was a race for the kids where there was about 30 of them out there that got to actually race in front of the X Games crowd. A big push with Harley right now is getting in front of the, the fitness lifestyle outdoor group, and showing them motorcycles for those of them that haven't been around them. So they're really tied into the Spartan racing. And we went and activated a Spartan race where it was a kids only race. There was like 5,000 or 6,000 kids there, and the kids were blown away, super excited about being able to get on something like, an Iron E, which is what we call the Harley Davidson version of our bike. It's the Harley Davidson Iron E12 or Iron E16. And so we've been going and activating that branded product in those spaces that are more, kind of in line with places that they would go activate. And we've had our learning lessons, right? You don't go to the rallies because, typically mom and dad or grandma and grandpa are riding in, without the kids for the weekend. So, it's really places where Harley's trying to reach, a crowd that they're not normally talking to. And we can, go do that with them with the Stacyc product and bring those families closer in, right? So they get to experience what Harley's about. And it's not just, gray ponytails and trikes. It's for sure it's a pretty amazing experience if you've never been into a Harley dealer, watching kind of how they treat their customers and the experience that it is to become a Harley Davidson owner is pretty rare, right? It's pretty awesome.
So what's next? I mean, as far as anything exciting coming around for the brand, but then also what are you guys trying to do a better job of in 2020, whether it be more event activation or digital or getting into more of the traditional realms like Racer X print? What do you guys have coming in the immediate future for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a big event schedule, in front of us. It's going to be delayed a little bit. But we did, obviously we've got the official, youth electric bike of Supercross. So we were at all the Supercross races. A lot of the content was driven, from that Supercross messaging. We signed up with AFT with the Stacyc brand, so we're the official youth electric bike of the American Flat Track Series. And we plan to do, in-pit activation for, demo rides, as well as, some stuff out on the track as well. So there'll be some, exhibition races similar to the Whole Shot Challenge, but out on American Flat Track. We're working with Pro Motocross to figure out which of those events that we're going to be able to do similar things at. Roland Sands has got some really cool stuff happening with his Super Hooligan series that we're going to be a part of. So there's the traditional, go become a staple in, all of these amazing motorcycle culture events. And then, I think for us, we did a lot of that last year. We're just going to multiply that, do a lot more of it this year. So the new thing for us is really figuring out digital, right? Like, what do we need to do? How do we spend? Where do we drive traffic? And that's going to be a really big focus for us in 2020. We feel like we do a pretty good job at the event activation. We just need to continue to grow it, right? Like,
Sure.
Build the team out, have more resources, be more places. Last year we did 36 or 7 events, and this year we plan to do 80, 90 events. So we're going to triple that, footprint from an activation standpoint. Now, digital is going to be a big part of where we, grow the awareness and the audience too. So,
Yeah, it's exciting things you guys have going on. And I mean, obviously you're, I would say probably the king of event activation. I mean, it's pretty much where, and with your product, I mean, it's the biggest no-brainer. And what's cool is, I mean, you mentioned American Flat Track. It's such a two-way street to where even such a niche sport like American Flat Track, for example, I mean, it works just as well for them as I'm sure it does for you, because what a great way to get kids involved in that sport to where they otherwise might be wanting to go race on the motocross track. What better way to get them involved than getting them out young on a Stacyc on the track and actually experiencing it. So I think it's cool the opportunities that you and other brands have to mutually work together. And there's a lot that can be learned. I encourage people to go look at the Stacyc Facebook page, Instagram account. I mean, you said obviously you guys want to do more with digital this year, but just the organic content that you guys have, the way you post daily and how you leverage the people that are using your product and the kids on the bikes and people that submit those photos to you. It's a good role. It's a good product to model it after if you're trying to figure out maybe how do you step up your Instagram game. A good place to look is at your guys' Instagram account. Where can we find more information about you? What are your social channels for those that may not know, and what's a good website to check out?
Yeah, so all the social channels are Ride Stacyc, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. And from a website perspective, it's stacyc.com, so stacyc.com.
Awesome. Man, I appreciate it. It's again, it's super exciting, and I hope to see you at some of the events this year once we get up and rolling again. And I appreciate you being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. It was exciting, fun to be out here, and awesome podcast, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impakt Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpakt.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketing.com. motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.